Bend Around the Wind by Skylia. Chapter 60. Shoot to Thrill. When the elevator opened, being face to face with an unfamiliar man was not what she expected. "Who are you and what are you doing here?" Natasha asked immediately. The man stared at her in shocked silence for a moment.
"He was checking up on the fireworks,"
called a voice from inside, probably Bruce, but it sounded like he was eating something. Clint did not wait for the man to move. He stepped out of the elevator and passed him. Natasha followed after a moment. The man stepped into the elevator and left right away. "They're really putting on fireworks too?" Clint asked as soon as they were inside. Bruce was indeed eating some Chinese food from a box.
"Did you not see the crowd outside?"
Bruce asked.
"I'm surprised there's no giant Iron Man hot air balloon tied to the tower."
"Don't jinx it," Clint said.
"So what are you guys doing here?"
Bruce asked. "Is Steve around?" Natasha asked. "Jarvis?" "I already let him know that you are here, Agent Trimanov," the AI replied dutifully. It was probably only her imagination, but the AI always seemed to say her name with the same tone Pepper Potts used nowadays, deliberately poorly concealed false politeness.
"Is there trouble?"
Bruce asked. "We're just monitoring the situation," Natasha answered. "In other words, Fury's pepper paranoia is acting up again," Clint added. It made Bruce chuckle. Natasha wanted to roll her eyes, but she refrained. "You should take this more seriously, Clint," she said instead. "Really?" Clint looked back at her. "That the big birthday festival outside counts as suspicious activity?"
"There was even a concert," Bruce added, "and the kids got free Iron Man figurines if they answered the Tony Stark trivia questions right."
"Well, this really sure sounds nefarious," Clint said with a completely flat tone. "Maybe there's even free beer down there. The horror!" "This whole celebration came out of nowhere," Natasha said, "and she's supposed to make some big announcement. There are a lot of reporters outside. Why?"
"Maybe the Stark Industries engineers finally managed to finish some of Tony's half-finished inventions," Bruce suggested. "I know they've been trying. That would be big news."
"And that would explain why she would make a huge Tony Stark festival around it," Clint added. "Marketing, you know." "And why the tower?" Natasha asked. "She could have picked any location. She arranged it around the Avengers Tower." "Because she asked us to make an appearance," Steve said as he entered the room. "Hey, Clint, Natasha." "She did?" Clint asked. "Not as a request," Steve said as he walked to the fridge to get out some water. "She just said it would be nice if people saw us a little. It is for Tony's birthday, so it would be a nice gesture and all." "Oh, I'm in," Clint said. "Free beer and dancing ironettes, what's not the like?" "We're not here to party," Natasha reminded him, but Clint did not seem reprimanded at all.
"Tony would have loved all this fuss,"
Bruce said quietly as he stood up to throw out the box and chopsticks. "So where's Potts then?" Natasha asked. "Why?" Steve asked. "You want to interrogate her about how she dared to throw a celebration in Tony's memory? Why did Fury send you here anyway?" "Fury thinks something big is going on in Stark Industries," Natasha said. "She canceled her trip to China and suddenly started planning this whole thing. She organized enormous media coverage, but all lips are sealed about what exactly she's going to announce. Also, almost every single big fish in the company seemed to have been called back to some sort of meeting that was today. Again, we don't know what it was about."
"And why exactly does Fury care about internal Stark Industries affairs?"
Bruce asked as he returned and sat down.
"It's none of his business."
"Stark Towers is the main financial supporter of the Avengers. This tower and everything inside belongs to her. She doesn't just have power and resources, but connections everywhere, and as much classified information as S.H.I.E.L.D. itself. You really think Fury doesn't have her monitored all the time, considering everything? Not to mention all the questionable employees." "Oh, here we go again," Clint mumbled. "It is none of Fury's business what Pepper does and doesn't do with the company," Steve said firmly. "All those resources and information would have been shared. Fury has only himself to blame."
"Fury should stop trying to control things that do not belong to him,"
Bruce added. "Because this much power in a civilian hand is that much safer," Natasha shot back. "You will not interrogate Pepper," Steve said. He looked at her first, then at Clint. "Don't look at me," Clint said. "I'm just here for the free beer and the ironettes." Natasha shot him a look. "What?" he asked. "You know where I stand on this. Fury dug the hole he's in. He's just butthurt because the Pepper Potts showed him who's boss." You know it's not personal, Natasha said. Of course it's personal, Tasha, Clint said, getting irritated by the topic. He always got worked up over this one. Fury wanted her to play by his rules. She flipped them off and stood her ground, and now he's waiting for an excuse to be able to do something about it. He has no excuse, and I sure will provide one. She shouldn't be allowed to play by her own rules without answering to anyone, Natasha said.
That's what Tony used to do,
Bruce said simply. This was an old argument. Stark left everything to Potts. Literally everything. His company, his houses, his suits, and other technologies. Fury thought the Iron Man suits and Jarvis should be under S.H.I.E.L.D. control. Potts disagreed and made sure she could keep everything in her possession. It's all been going on for years, and it did not look like it would end soon. Fury can't have everything he wants, Steve said. Even his brows were furrowed angrily at this point. No, you can either calm down and smile for the cameras, or leave. Pepper's speech is scheduled to start in an hour. With that, he turned around and left the room.
See you downstairs,
Bruce said as he stood up and followed him. Is Thor back yet? Clint asked.
I'm sure S.H.I.E.L.D. will notice his arrival as soon as we do,
Bruce said.
Prepare to miss the Bifrost.
And we all know there are quieter ways of travel than the Bifrost, Natasha said. Bruce just shrugged and left. They were in the elevator again, and Clint was still visibly agitated by the previous conversation. You can't keep doing this forever, Natasha said after some silence. Do what? Dancing between S.H.I.E.L.D. and the Avengers. You say you're S.H.I.E.L.D. and you still side with Rogers every time. Well, Steve happens to be right about a lot of things, while Fury was making all the wrong calls. Fury needed to act in a dire situation. He could have asked Rhodey, Clint said. He may not be an Avenger, but he's willing to suit up when there is need for it. We did not know that back then, Natasha argued. You know what most agents think? Clint asked. Of course you do. You pay attention. All agents, and I don't just mean the guys on the field. I mean even guys like Blake and Sitwell. They think Fury crossed the line. They all know Stark almost shredded himself to fix the helicarrier while it was falling. Clint stopped for a moment, taking a breath like he always needed to when he talked about those days. And then they watched him as he flew through a portal into space with a nuclear missile on his back, willing to die for us all. He's considered a hero not just by the public or the media. The agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. consider him a hero. And then Fury tried to steal invaluable technology from the grieving girlfriend of that hero. Jeez, Tasha, I wonder how things didn't turn out well. The suits were needed. No, they were not. Fury just wanted some hand-picked agent in that suit, like his very own obedient Iron Man puppet. You really have to wonder why that pissed people off. And that was just one of his many bad calls. Now he's just trying to prove that Pepper cannot be trusted with Stark's technology, and that's bullshit. He would stop trying to prove it if we found whoever's giving information to her, Natasha said. If they exist, Clint said. She has an informant in S.H.I.E.L.D., Natasha said firmly. If we found out who it was, Fury would stop trying to follow her every step. We're never going to find that mole, Clint said. We've been searching for what, over 2 years? I'm pretty sure Fury's just paranoid and still underestimating Jarvis. No, it has to be an agent. Natasha shook her head. Some of the files Potts was not supposed to have came from the internal S.H.I.E.L.D. server. Those could only be accessed by someone who was physically present. I'm not surprised either way, Clint shrugged. Whoever it is, they obviously know that Fury has no right to take anything from Pepper and Stark Industries. If you are so against the methods of S.H.I.E.L.D. nowadays, I really don't understand why you didn't pick the Avengers instead. Natasha told him, evenly staring ahead. Really, Tasha? You don't know? I need to explain it to you why I picked S.H.I.E.L.D. She resolutely stared forward, even if she felt Clint's gaze on her. When the elevator door opened, Clint huffed and murmured whatever under his nose as he stepped out. Natasha took a steadying breath as she followed, making sure her face did not show any of her thoughts or emotions. They found Pepper Potts in one of the first-floor offices. She was dressed in an impeccable crimson suit for the occasion, short skirt and red stilettos, and, of course, gold accessories. She always wore some variant of red and gold at official appearances. It was obvious why, of course. With Stark gone, she rose up to the role of being not just the CEO, but the face of Stark Industries as well. She was sitting in a chair getting her makeup done by her beautician. Her two usual assistants only glanced up from their Stark rooms for a moment when the door opened. Steve, Bruce, Clint, it's wonderful that you could make it. She greeted with a wide smile. And of course, Agent Romanov. And there was that false, polite tone again.
It's quite a big fuss outside,
Bruce said. I know. Pepper smiled as she closed her eyes again so that her eyeshadow could be finished. It is Tony's birthday, after all. Only the best is good enough. Her face and voice remained calm and pleased, not tensing or quieting even a bit. She either became even better at hiding her emotions, or she was finally over Stark's death. Janet called and said she's sorry she couldn't make it, Steve said apologetically. Yes, she sent me an email. Potts nodded. It's all right. I know they can't just cut their trip short because of this. It's a shame, but I'm sure they won't miss anything if they watch TV. Why the sudden urge to throw a whole festival? Natasha asked. I would expect you to understand the importance of good publicity and marketing, she answered pleasantly. The people love Tony and Iron Man. Always did and always will. This is a good occasion to remind them of that. Why? Why not? Pepper asked as she opened her eyes again. Anyway, Steve interrupted. It's nice to see so many people gathered. He said, You must be glad that there's such a crowd outside. Yes, I was hoping there would be a lot of attention. Do we have an estimation, Adam? She asked. Her assistant looked up from his smartphone, then started tapping on it rapidly. It seems like we have over 250,000 people gathered around the tower on the Park Avenue and East 45th Street. Do you want me to check the viewer count for the television and online broadcast?
Those have to be tens of millions of people,
Bruce said. We just started broadcasting live in East Asia and Australia, so it should be more like hundreds of millions, Potts said. Why do you need this much publicity? Natasha asked. No interrogation, Natasha, Steve warned. Oh, let her, Steve. Agent Romanov knows very well what lines not to cross unless she wants to be removed from the building. Again. Director Fury, I don't care what Fury thinks or wants. Potts interrupted and finally stood up now that her makeup was done. Her lips were blood red, just like her suit. If he's so curious, he could turn on his TV and listen to my announcement, like everyone else. If she wouldn't have been such a constant pain to deal with, Natasha would have been impressed by how well Pepper could hold her gaze. She was not easy to intimidate, not for a long time now. Being without Stark made her harder. She was not messing around when it came to protecting what used to belong to Stark and now belonged to her. She had friends in all the high places and used the media and the public as her sword and shield. That's why Fury was so keen on finding evidence that she was not suitable to keep the Iron Man suits and Stark's other technologies in her possession. S.H.I.E.L.D. couldn't control, intimidate, or touch her in any way. Stark was predictable because of his issues, complexes, and ego. Potts was not so easy to deal with. Now, if you'll excuse me. She smiled and blatantly turned her back on Natasha to look at the others. Have a drink outside, smile for the cameras, she said, and you will definitely need to listen to my announcement. Sure thing, Pepper, Clint told her. Pepper smiled one more time, then left the room, her two assistants and the beautician following Claire closely behind. Natasha was sure that her security was not far away, even if she did not see any of them yet. They had to be lurking nearby. You just have to antagonize her every time, don't you? Steve asked. You knew I was going to ask my questions, Natasha answered. Or at least that I would try. And now I know that she's definitely up to something. This is not going to be some simple company announcement. It's still not any of S.H.I.E.L.D.'s business, Steve countered.
And not to point out the obvious, but Fury knows Pepper doesn't like you, so why does he keep sending you anyway?
Bruce asked. It's not like just any S.H.I.E.L.D. agent can walk in here, she answered simply. She did not add that Fury did not trust Clint to do anything on his own when it came to the Avengers and Potts, so Natasha had to come as well. Can we just go and have some beer now? Clint asked, turning to leave right away. Or some other fancy drink with tiny umbrellas or something?
You realize you're going to be the only one who's going to drink, right?
Bruce reminded him. I really miss Thor all of a sudden, Clint sighed. There was a little VIP spot next to the stage for them and the Stark Industries bigwigs in attendance. Not that the crowd closest to the stage didn't go wild the second the Steve was spotted. He dutifully smiled and waved at everyone, sent a few quick salutes to kids with Iron Man masks and repulsor lamp gloves. The stage had a giant screen at the back that showed live footage that probably came from Jarvis's external cameras and the helicopters flying around the tower and nearby streets. Loud music was blaring from the giant speakers and Ironets danced up on the stage. I can't believe Pepper kept the ironettes, Clint said once he returned with his drink. It looked like the bartender behind the stage prepared something purple for him. Funny guy. Not that I'm really complaining. The ironettes are full-time employees, Natasha explained. Whenever they were not parading around Stark, they were doing other promotional work for Stark Industries all around the world, so she probably didn't want to fire them.
Just change the outfit,
Bruce remarked quietly. Yes, the ironettes were in red and gold full-body catsuits instead of tiny tops and hat pants, but that was the only change. I don't think I've ever seen so many Iron Man toys at once, Clint said then. Every kid is running around with at least one figurine.
All Iron Man merchandise are manufactured by Stark Enterprises, Bruce said. Toys, mugs, lamps, t-shirts, you name it. Iron Man is a trademark, and Tony's been making money with his superhero status from the get-go.
Okay, Clint frowned. And what about those Hulk plushies I see over there?
Those are manufactured by Stark Enterprises, too,
Bruce said with a small smile. They have the trademark for the Hulk? Clint asked as he slurped his ridiculous purple drink.
The Hulk and for Thor, too,
Bruce agreed.
I agreed to it before you say anything. The kids get plushies and giant green toy fists, and I get a percentage after the sales. Pepper was very fair about it.
What would you need the money for? You live here, Clint asked again.
Just in case,
Bruce shrugged.
And I don't like Pepper paying for everything.
Or did Thor agree?
Steve asked.
He agreed, right?
Thor agreed because of the kids, Bruce said. He said it reminded him of the old days when warriors carved his name into their weapons, so that they would fight like Thor was fighting on their side. He wasn't even surprised about it, but I guess people used to build altars and temples for him.
But he gets money out of it too.
I don't think he spent any of it yet, Bruce said. He was just happy about kids wanting tiny Mjolnirs and red capes. He has a bit of a soft spot for kids.
Of course he has! Clint snorted and went back to slurping his drink. He really looked ridiculous. Wait, who makes the cap stuff? I'm pretty sure I saw Star-Spangled plastic shields before.
Stark Enterprises,
Bruce said. Steve frowned. I didn't sign anything, he said.
Did you sign anything back when your comics first came out in the 40s?
Bruce asked. I think so. Steve still frowned, trying to remember. I didn't come up with the name or costume or anything, so it wasn't like I had a say in it.
Yeah, so whoever owned it before definitely sold it. Maybe you should ask Pepper about it.
I want kids to have little bows, Clint said then with a sigh.
Sorry, no toys about shield agents,
Bruce told him. Clint grumbled and went back to his drink. Natasha sighed and looked at her watch. Potts' speech couldn't come quick enough. When Pepper Potts walked on stage, there was just as much fanfare as Natasha expected. The sun was just setting, so it was still enough light to see well, but not too bright for the fireworks. The crowd was cheering, cameras flashing, and the ironettes went from dancing to posing prettily in the background, moving around like ladies in waiting around their queen. It was all very well practiced to look good. Potts was no Tony Stark, but this style she had going in the past years was working out pretty well for her. Good evening, New York, and hello, world, she greeted with a bright smile and got a loud cheering from the crowd in answer. It's a testament to the man we are here to celebrate, she continued, that so many of you gathered here today. Every single pair of eyes who are watching us right now all around the world is a proof of how the love for the inventor, the hero, the man did not weaken in the years he's been absent from our lives. We are here to remember all that he has given us, the world. We are here to celebrate all that he has done. We are here for Tony Stark. With a loud applause, the crowd cheered again. But we are also here to set our sight on the future, Potts said with another brilliant smile. A better and safer future. It is no dream any longer, no idle wish or prayer. So now, without wasting more words, music started playing, not that loudly, but Natasha would recognize the first notes of the song anywhere. That sounds familiar, Steve said. AC/DC, Clint said. Potts smiled widely on stage again. Please turn your gaze to the skies. She finished and did as she told and tilted her head a bit and stared right ahead. The volume of the music picked up and the crowd started to move around, turning to see what the big spectacle was supposed to be. Natasha turned her head as well, and so did the others, but there was nothing to see for now. Holy shit! Clint cursed as he stood up from his seat. Natasha, Steve, and Bruce followed his line of sight, but even so, it took a few moments before she spotted the fast approaching red spot. But then it became clear, and not even Natasha knew how to react first. The spot turned into a shape, and the shape was soon an incredibly fast Iron Man suit that was flying above the crowd straight to the tower. The people's shocked gasps and questioning noises soon turned into loud cheers. The Ironettes also recovered from their surprise pretty fast and started dancing to the familiar tune of Shoot to Thrill. The red suit did not slow down when it reached the stage, but shot out up to the sky, circling the tower. Now the cameras were all zoomed in on it, so the giant screen at the back of the stage showed a really good view of the suit. That does not look like any of Stark's old suits, Natasha observed. The suit was completely dark red, not even a sliver of gold on sight. It had an arc reactor in the middle of its chest, but there were also other bright blue shapes scattered around on the shoulders, gauntlets, and boots. It was still an Iron Man suit, though, no question about it. She could hear the reporters practically screaming into their microphones, asking the big question of who this Iron Man was. It was a good question. Was it Rhodes or one of the guys from Pat's security team? Did she decide that it was finally time to pass the mantle of Iron Man to someone else? The figure kept flying high and around the tower, then back down again to fly over the cheering people. It was quite a show. Even Steve and Bruce were on their feet now, their eyes following the flying shape. When it flew up to the tower for a second time, the fireworks went off too, red and gold, of course, lighting up the darkening sky with flashing colors. Then the suit landed on the stage from a great fall, and even the pose, the way he landed, was classic Iron Man, so to speak. Pepper was standing a little to the side, leaving the center of the stage for whoever was in the suit. Iron Man walked forward where everyone could see him. Well. Then the drum solo started, and the suit started to shift. There was no need for machinery to pull it off. The shoulder shifted closer to the chest plate, and the armor on the upper arm slid back into it as well. Only the gauntlet stayed in place. The metal covering the thighs half slid back into the upper structure. Other pieces slid down into the boots. Then finally the helmet opened and revealed the face. Holy shit! Clint cursed again. It's Tony Stark! It is Tony Stark! Natasha heard some reporter yelling, screaming, really. No, not just one. All of them were. Everyone was yelling. AC/DC was blaring from the speakers. The crowd was cheering wilder than before. The flashing of cameras did not stop even for a moment. And Tony Stark was grinning up on the stage with his arms spread wide and the Iron Man suit on him like some fantasy armor. The giant projector on the back showed him up close now, and if Natasha was correct, the suit was even engraved. But it was hard to say what the shape was from this distance. Stark also had some sort of metal headgear on, and maybe it was just makeup and the lighting, but he looked strangely young at the moment. He lifted up to the air once more, a little when the final chorus of the song started, and Natasha didn't even want to guess how the boots and gauntlets worked when they were seemingly disconnected from the arc reactor. Stark was just showing off, it was clear. Then he was down on the stage again, grinning and waving at the crowd as the song finally ended. I say this, he started speaking then, from the very bottom of my heart. He grinned again. It's good to be back.